Hello, everyone. I'm Wahab. I'm an infrastructure engineer at Bristol Centre for Supercomputing. I usually work on Isambard AI, but I'm running this project to identify barriers for biologists using federated HPC. So we're working with a few members of the University of Bristol in the medical school, in the vet school. We're working with Laura from the Rosalind Franklin Institute, and we're working with David Horsfall, who's working in genomics in Newcastle University. So the main question we're asking is, what issues do biologists in particular face when using federated HPC? Is it software, interface, or data? So focusing on these three aspects. Why are we focusing on biologists? Essentially because in computational physics and chemistry have quite mature software stacks, and they've been using HPC for much longer than biologists. There's quite a large influx of biologists coming in now, especially with new AI technology. So kind of AlphaFold, etc. Anecdotally, from Isambard AI, we see nearly more than half of our users is biology or healthcare related. There's quite a lot of projects for focusing on TREs and SDEs for kind of medical data. But here we're focusing on non-sensitive biology research, so fundamental microbiology, genomics, or molecular biology. Looking at kind of existing HPC centers, we find quite a few domain-specific ones. There was a question about it earlier, the NCR. In biology, we see quite a few domain-specific centers. So Bristol has Blue Cryo, which is specifically just for cryo-EM data. But there's also Cornell BioHPC in the US, which I'll bring some examples from, and also the Chinica Elixir IT. Great, so if we look at existing kind of domain-specific HPC centers, we'll find that kind of they already have. So firstly, we see quite a lot of pre-installed software. So Cornell's BioHPC has over 1,000 pre-installed software, so AlphaFold, etc. They also have kind of specific interfaces for their users. Remote desktop, X Windows, Jupyter, RStudio, and a lot of workflow managers. Someone once told me there's a workflow manager for every scientific domain, and there's way more than that. And the third one is data. And there's a lot of data storage that's placed right next to scientific equipment, and that comes with tooling to move that, just like Laura's talk from earlier. So we'll talk about kind of our first case study and interviews. Okay, so this project is using AlphaFold to analyze, to compare it with some cryo-EM data. So this is working with the University of Bristol, SDFC, and the Laboratory for Molecular Biology funded by MRC. Essentially, there's a software called RelyOn. It's more than 10 years old at this point, I'd say. And it's the main software used to analyze electron microscopy data. Traditionally, kind of RelyOn is kind of an HPC application used on HPC systems, but now it has kind of plugins to add AI models. So there's kind of a blurring the line between HPC and AI. Currently, this project that we analyzed could not install RelyOn on Isambard AI, an AI service, to run these AI models. The main blockers were the developers didn't have access to ARM CPUs, and the users didn't have access to X11 forwarding. So those two combined, interfaces for developers and interfaces for users, block this project from being able to run. So currently, if we use Isambard AI as an example for an AI platform, the interfaces are limited to SSH and Jupyter. Kind of if we were asking kind of the question about software interface and data, in software, that seems like users expect that to at times be difficult to install, and there's a few projects looking at that. For data, there's lots of projects looking for that for data movement tooling, but interface seems to be a difficult one. Whether interface for Jupyter or X11 forwarding or mainly workflow managers is what a lot of our users are asking for. We also need to think about developers and not just researchers and users. If we attract more developers to our federated HPC services, our sovereign tools will be more well supported on our systems, and users will have a better time of running them. We've submitted an application for a gateway project on AIR to kind of assess how developers can use the current existing systems. And one question we're asking is how many of our users have access to RSEs? That can help with some of the issues with software. We're just kind of surveying and through interviews trying to understand what method do our users have access to RSEs, if they do at all. So we're working on user documentation for software, as well as some training material for using AlphaFold. And our next steps are just to continue with user interviews and to understand more. But yeah, thank you, everyone.